Today on the show, we have Martel Howard. Martel is a technical sourcing specialist over at Coalfire. He's worked at companies like Novant Health, Impact Advisors, AMN Healthcare.
Always be curious. That's an invaluable skill of sourcing. I look at it from like a storytelling arc almost when I'm looking at resumes or LinkedIn profiles. I'm reading it as like character arcs. Sometimes you'll miss things like that if you're not reading subtext as well. You have to, I say it like this, it's not enough to read black and white. You must also be able to read gray.
How are these people in your orbit? Because our interview pass-through rates at the top of funnel were so good. And every candidate I was teeing up was somebody that they wanted to talk to.
Of course, you can use like ChatGPT to give you a Boolean string, but if you don't understand the Boolean, it's not going to help you. You need to be able to foundationally understand that to expand your brain, to be able to critically think about these roles.
Hey, RecOps friends, are you still losing hours every week to interview scheduling chaos? What if you could eliminate the back and forth, cut scheduling time by 90%, and actually get those recruiter hours back on the hiring desk where they belong? That's exactly why teams are turning to Rooster, the native interview scheduling platform built inside Workday Recruiting that finally makes interview logistics fast, seamless, and predictable. With Rooster, you connect directly to your Workday system. No extra tools, no disconnected workflows, and instantly let candidates self-schedule with one-click booking links. It handles time zone and language differences automatically, sends branded confirmations and reminders via SMS, email, or WhatsApp, and keeps interviewers, coordinators, and candidates in sync without constant manual follow-ups. And it's not just about speed. Rooster helps you see the true cost of scheduling inefficiencies with its TAS metric, so ops teams can track and improve the parts of the process that slow you down the most. Whether your team hires locally, globally, or somewhere in between, Rooster cuts errors, saves 10+ recruiter hours per week, and creates a candidate experience that reflects the quality of your brand. If you're ready to stop chasing calendars and start hiring with confidence, visit rooster.us and schedule a demo today. Your recruiters will thank you. Now, on with the show. What's up, everybody? Today on the show, we have Martel Howard. Martel is a technical sourcing specialist over at Coalfire. He's worked at companies like Novant Health, Impact Advisors, AMN Healthcare, United Talent Staffing. He is one of those amazing sourcing internet personalities and somebody I'm excited to have on the show today. Martel, what's up, dude? Where are you based and what are you working on?
I'm in the South Atlanta area, so I would say about an hour and 30 minutes south of Atlanta. I'm currently with Coalfire and currently working on a few positions like senior compensation analyst. My main focus are the technical positions like senior Azure engineer, cybersecurity roles, things of that nature.
Yeah, that's great. You have put out a lot of content around sourcing over the years on LinkedIn. You've always been one of those folks in the comments, just a positive, bright spot on the internet, which can be a dark and aggressive place at times. So I just wanted to give you a huge shout out for how you show up. What gives you that perspective in life?
I would say coming from a drama or filmmaking background, I would say that in acting or when you're doing auditions, to me, you hear a lot of no a lot of the time. Even if you're auditioning for an acting role or submitting for a film festival, you get told no a lot. So for me, it's become like when I get, say if I were applying for roles or something like that, I get rejection. It's just, to me, I just equate that to an audition. Okay, they didn't feel it, so let me move on. I think a lot of the times when people are putting together a lot of applications or they go on these application blasts where they apply to so many in one day, especially if you're seriously affected by it, I think you set yourself up for, I call it rejection depression, because you get so many rejections back in one day. You get maybe like 20 or 35, depending on how many. Sometimes people put in 100 applications a day. You get 20 rejections back. To me, that it's almost like setting yourself up to be disappointed.
Yeah. And when I think about rejection, it builds resilience. Recruiting should be hard. Work should be hard. There's a lot of competition. The skills that companies need are evolving. And we put a lot of, I think, pressure on both sides of the hiring equation, both on recruiters to provide amazing candidate experiences and candidates to come to market with the skills that companies need. I actually enjoy this idea of building resilience on both sides because that's how we have a sustainable path forward. It's not about just getting the job. It's about delivering value and growing our skills and building our network over a portfolio of a lifetime of a career. When you look back on building companies and building sourcing motions in the companies you've had, what are some moments that you're proud of?
I would say one of the prouder moments I'm proud of it would be like helping build out a candidate persona profile for a company that didn't have one at the time. Help create that, and how would I put this? Like, I kind of devise them, showing them what to do, and then coming up with a template for that, and then we work together, create a template for the whole company, and that template is still being used today. So
That's
that's one of
awesome.
my prouder moments, and walking them through like how candidate persona is addressed, what to look for, what to add in, then hey, using what's going to be relevant for this company in and of itself, because every company's different.
What do you think the value is of building these talent personas as you map a market and have that always be sourcing mentality?
I posted a lot about recently memory. That way you're not
Mhm.
always starting from zero when you're doing a new rec that's similar. It's still good to readjust and see, hey, what may have changed or come back to those in 3 to 6 months. But when you have a candidate personas, you're not starting back from scratch. You're building that institutional memory. And that also helps future sourcers or somebody who's coming down the line. They can look at that as well and see where they may need to interject, pivot, and see what's different.
Man, I saw this meme from my buddy Bill Yost, who is a people analytics guy at Netflix, but he's also a really funny LinkedIn person. And he had this meme, and it was like finally understanding the previous employees' Excel formula after years of them leaving. And it was a funny meme because it's like, how do we have that institutional knowledge preserved when certain tactical roles and certain in-depth tactical behaviors move on with the
That's true.
people that build those strategies. So, how do you think about preserving that institutional knowledge when it comes to sourcing?
Gotcha. I think one good way to do that is get with your sources and or your team or recruiters, go over what you're doing, where you can find this information, where it's located at. And sometimes if it's, how would I put this? A lot of times it's all here. And like I said, when that person leaves, then that knowledge is gone because they never maybe documented it or told people where to find it or where they put it in a box folder. It's gone, or people don't know where to look for it. I think you have those occasional meetings with your team, maybe if they're one-on-ones, things of that nature. Keep them updated. And, hey, here where I put this information. This is where this is located. Or you can have almost like a feedback loop every so often. Come, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what I did here. This is what we're working with here. I try to figure out how I want to put that, because we have our regular one-on-one with my recruiters. I'm currently like the only sourcer on my team. I work with a team of recruiters, and that's how we work together. Like, we have our one-on-ones every week. Will come through as a vibration. But I would say that's how I build institutional memory, is through, I guess the best term we call it, maybe learning sessions, like monthly learning sessions.
Awesome. How do you think about defining the handoff from being a sourcer and where the recruiter takes the rest of the process? Are you doing phone screens, or what does that look like in your day-to-day compared to maybe what you've done before?
Gotcha. Like, in that, all companies are different. I've done phone screens in the past, and I've been with companies that I just sourced the talent. Currently with Coalfire, it's more like a heads down sourcing role. I find the talent, source the talent, and then reach out to them, create those messages for them, send them on LinkedIn or using Juicebox as well. And then reach out to them, then get them connected to the recruiter. But I also have done some phone screenings as well for more, I don't want to say difficult roles, but more roles that are a little bit more require precise requirements, I would say. And basically that's just getting with the recruiter, going over a few basic questions that I should be asking them. So that way there's no overlapping questions and the candidate's not getting the same question between the sourcer and recruiter. That way, when they get to them, they can really focus more so on the technical requirements.
Right on. Now, what types of roles are you finding you're having the most traction with right now at top of funnel, where you're getting high response, high interested rates versus some of the more tough to fill roles?
Gotcha. I would say, wow, that's a good question, because I think a lot of the roles now are high interest roles, because for almost every role you're getting like almost, that's the best word for it, bombarded with a lot of applications now. Is like, due to the market currently, you may get 300 submissions to a role, but currently I would say the most interest roles are, I would still say IT roles, the tech roles that we have. I always forget it, Azure or Azure. Azure or Azure engineers are senior cloud consultants, roles of that nature.
Right on. You mentioned a little bit about some of the tools, but tell us about your stack. What do you think a great sourcer needs in order to get the job done in 2026?
Cool deal. I love Boolean. Boolean is number one. I think Your foundation should be Boolean. Learn how to use that. I would say, of course, you can use like ChatGPT to give you a Boolean string, but if you don't understand the Boolean, it's not going to help you. Like the ands, the ors, your nots, your in titles, your in anchor. You need to be able to foundationally understand that to expand your brain to be able to critically think about these roles. But once you understand that, then you can build better natural language searches as well. You're talking in the language that the candidate speaks, and therefore you can find those people better. That's me personally. I like the Boolean X-ray. Also use JuiceBox. I love JuiceBox. I don't want to sound like I'm just promoting JuiceBox here, but to me, it's very thorough. It's allowed me to automate a couple of functions as well. Use natural language searching, finding people. It also has a cool function that I got it pulled up right now, where you can kind of go through, do like an autopilot, and then kind of adjust what you're looking for the roles, and it'll come back with like, hey, does this person is 100% match? And still, make sure you read the profiles. Even though it may say 100% match, make sure you still read the profiles, go through it. It's still, AI can make mistakes as well.
Yeah, I think having that foundation of understanding a Boolean search, how to run an X-ray, how to run an in-text search is critical for a sourcer. Not every recruiter sources. Some recruiters are processing inbound applications where maybe the searches that they're on have a really strong employer brand. And that's great. I find myself a sourcer out of necessity. The roles that I've had to fill for the last 10 years have always been through outbound. And I like that. I like that pressure. I like that ability to deliver value to the business. I think any great sourcer right now should be able to launch a rec and fill a pipeline within 2 weeks. And I just love that idea of stepping on the field. Launching a rec and getting those outbound sequences going feels like I'm stepping on the field. What do you like about being an outbound sourcer versus an inbound recruiting processor?
Gotcha. That's a good question. In the past, I have done full cycle recruitment. Like I've done that in the past. So I know what it's like to be a full cycle recruiter. That's when I was with the staffing agency at United Talent doing that. I would say I had the opportunity to go to AM in healthcare to do sourcing, because that was during COVID, and that branch shut down that I was at. And I've always been more interested in the front end of it. I find it almost like being an archaeologist. You're shifting through, I don't want to say dirt, but you're looking through profiles and you shift into that, finding that one piece. It engages, like to me, it engages my mind more. Like to just, okay, let me put this and this together and see if I can find this type of role or this type of person for that role. I would say that is what really engages me about sourcing. It's almost like being a detective, Sherlock Holmes to a degree.
I love that. I think sourcing is also just fun. Sleuthing
Yes.
the internet, being able to go on that quest to find the right person. The best compliment I've ever received is from a CEO founder, one of the best. And it was like, how are these people in your orbit? Because our interview pass-through rates at the top of funnel were so good. And every candidate I was teeing up was somebody that they wanted to talk to. We were able to reduce operational expense by not wasting anybody's time, by serving up profiles that were not a great fit. And we were making like 2-to-1, 3-to-1 hires on key roles. And to me, I felt a sense of pride, because what it reminded me of is the skills of just being able to do that, but also a reflection of a term that I had heard a lot of software engineers use, which is, it took me 20 years to be able to solve that ticket in 2 minutes. And I think that is the same idea for sourcing, is if you do it long enough, you have a skill set that becomes invaluable. What are your thoughts around the invaluable skills of sourcing?
I would say one of those is curiosity. One must always be curious. That's an invaluable skill of sourcing. The ability to go out and look like, hey, let me look at this profile. It may not be exactly what I'm looking for, but being able to read into the LinkedIn or the resume text. Okay, because I look at it from like a storytelling arc almost when I'm looking at resumes or LinkedIn profiles. I'm reading it as like character arcs. Okay, cool. Like they're not mentioning this specifically, but the way they word everything around it, they are really working with this. I found a profile like that one time. They didn't mention it was a certain Epic module that they needed to be working with. They didn't mention it on their profile at all, but I was reading through it. I was like, this person has that, what I'm looking for. And the recruiter was like, they don't mention that specifically. Since you found them, I'm going to give them a shot. And she called them found out that he had been working with that extensively. So we talked to him from there and say, hey, just make sure you put this on your resume before we send it to the hiring manager. And that person was hired for that role. Sometimes you'll miss things like that if you're not reading subtext as well. You have to, I say it like this, it's not enough to read black and white. You must also be able to read gray.
How do you think AI and natural language processing, when it comes to sourcing, can read that gray area when it comes to sourcing and seeing what's on a web page and somebody's background?
Gotcha. I think it can, like sometimes, of course, we're human, we miss things. I think the way I've used it in my searches, it's like I'll create a prompt and say, of course, I'll take out any PII, personal information, when using that profile. So I'll put that information into like the AI or software I'm using. I say, hey, can you take a look at this and read this profile and see if it's, I'm trying to figure out how I phrased it. I don't have my prompt right up on me. I have my notes, so I don't have those right on me. The way I use a prompt, like, hey, look for anything that I may have missed, or see if they're looking for a certain tech stack, or see which way they have phrased it that I may be looking it over, so to speak.
I love to hear that you're sampling new tools. There are a lot of AI sourcing tools hitting the market, and this idea of using natural language processing to find talent helps recruiters and sourcers research and get a return on a query faster. Understanding the
Sure.
foundations of how these platforms work, leveraging Boolean logic is critical because most of them are actually just built around Boolean. LinkedIn Recruiter is built around Boolean. What do you think is the value of A/B testing some of these tools as they hit the market?
I would say the value of A/B testing is being able to actually see what tools you actually need. A lot of times people are like, hey, they look at a shiny new toy and, hey, let's get this, let's get that. And it may not be functional for your organization. And so you're just spending cost just to spend cost. That's the way I look at A/B testing. Is also, that comes back to Boolean. You A/B test your Boolean as well. See what's working, see what's not working. Picking up key phrases. That's how I learned to really source, is like, you see what people are actually doing when you read their profile, see how they talk about their work. And that way you can come up with better strings and Booleans from that. And the same is applied with the new AI technologies. It's like, hey, if you can get a test, like a free trial, and see if it's actually applicable for your organization. Like I like say like Pillar, or what I see a lot of MetaView recently, people posting MetaView, things of that nature. Hey, let's A/B test it, see if it's good for your organization. Even if the ones that do the video, I'm trying to think what do you call it, video scripting, or ones that take the notes for you. Is this something that you actually need? Or I don't know how to put it. I've lost my words there.
No, you're great. I totally get what you're picking down. I'm picking up what you're putting down. There's something there I was going to say. Let's talk about this one. This is a fun one. Tell us about your hardest search. What's one of those that you still think about all these years later?
Oh, gotcha. That's an easy one for me. I would say it was an infrastructure engineer 2 position that kind of focuses on VMware. It was heavy into that. It was supposed to be a support role, so infrastructure engineer 2. So like a support role, and me and the recruiter, we had teamed up with we had got the information from the hiring leader on what we needed to look for. But every time we came back with profiles, it wasn't the right profile, what he was looking for. So 3 months later, we had another meeting with him, like to kind of reassess like our search. And it was the same thing. Okay, I'm looking for this, looking for that. How would I put this? You try to ask open-ended questions, still like more so clothed in the answers on that side. That's how I would phrase that. So eventually, what happened with this role? The recruiter, she found a old job description for the position. And that in that job description, it described the level of support that this person needed to do. So we were under the impression that this would be a light support role. But from that old job description, like this person would have to be able to support the whole system. As I say, if the main engineer took off for a week or went on vacation. So that changed the search for us. Then we were able to find the right person. That person did get hired because at that time they had company restructuring. So at that time, after that, I think the sourcing team got disbanded, but I did get that last hire for that role.
Awesome. I love that idea of sleuthing the previous JD. Such a great signal to glean. When you think about the market right now, and recruiters are talking about lots of top of funnel, a lot of applicants, a lot of time it takes to process those applicants to see if there's potentially what might be like a 1% conversion rate is like pretty good for inbound hiring. How do you think recruiters and sourcers can stay on top of their game around sourcing and keep those chops sharp even when just processing some inbound apps might get the job done and get the placement completed.
Gotcha. Can you maybe rephrase that one for me?
How do you think sourcers can keep their skills sharp even when recruiting teams might be hiring more inbound applications in this market?
Okay, gotcha. I would say still go out there and source, still bring in the people, still go out there, look for candidates, look for other roles that maybe, how would I put this? I call it preventative maintenance. Talk to your hiring managers or your leaders and kind of see what's coming up and through the pipeline. Hey, because you never know. We've done that before. Hey, we talk to a hiring manager and say, hey, even though we have a lot of inbound applications coming through, we are looking to hire for this type of role in the future. We already had that pipeline ready to go. So when that position did open up, we already had 3 people ready in the pipeline for him. I think it was a QA engineer.
That's great. Now, Martel, I think a lot about sourcing being outbound, and we have a lot of these tools that are making it easier for recruiters to find candidates through different places like LinkedIn profiles, GitHubs. What about a company that might be a larger company with a big ATS and a lot of resumes in the ATS? Usually that's not as clean as using natural language processing to source. How do you think about sourcing from within the ATS?
From within the ATS, sometimes I do that still here. I use a Boolean to do that, like and or some of your quotation. That still works. We were able to get a hire from me doing that from a person who had been a what you call a Silver Star medalist. And I went through the ATS. I was like, hey, let me look up, because there wasn't really like a lot of people on LinkedIn for this particular profile. So let me look through the ATS, and I said, let me compose me a little Boolean and see who pops up. And I saw a person that I had interviewed maybe about a year or so ago. I looked at the feedback and see that, hey, this person did really well. So hey, let's try them again. And so I'll use Boolean through Lever to still find people that way, because some of those key phrases still pop up through that way.
That's awesome. Do you do any candidate coaching as well, or like job coaching, anything like that?
Not particularly. Yeah.
Neither do I.
Last time I did that, I think it was when I was doing like full cycle recruitment, kind of like going through them like, hey, this is what they want to see on your resume, like stuff like that. If they didn't mention it specifically, guide them through some of the process.
Yeah. The reason I asked is because sometimes like you think about how we search these profiles, and candidates can think about optimizing their profiles for how recruiters are finding them. I also don't do any like job seeker content, but I wanted to give you that opportunity in case that is part of your wheelhouse. When I think about the evolution of the candidate pipeline, what are your thoughts on pass-through rates and metrics in terms of how it might evolve when we have AI sourcing tools giving us more precision at the top of the funnel?
Gotcha. I think I wrote about this at one point. I think one of your new metrics is going to be how fast how would I say this? With AI being able to assist with information, market intelligence, market insights, it's going to be how fast you're able to use that information to bring in, I think, new candidates or more precise candidates for the role. I think that's going to be one of your new KPIs. It's like, how fast are you able to use this information to still agree to as well?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One of the metrics that I've heard about being out in the recruiting industry, on the conference circuit, absorbing a lot of content, looking at some of the enterprise leaders, is this phrase and metric, quality of slate. And we talk about the slate in passing a lot, but to hear it more formalized and come from the stage, Melissa Thompson at Ford Motors has really coined this in that regard. And I love this idea of quality of slate. What is the quality of the candidates we are serving up to our hiring managers? But what you just said is critical to that story. When we think about telling the story around quality of slate, it's how fast did we get there? And that efficiency can be quantified. So not only are we looking at time to fill from when the rec was launched to when it was closed or when the candidate started, depending on how the finance team defines it, it's looking at how fast did we get the hiring managers, what they needed from our business group. And that's one of those areas that I will hang my hat on, is how speed is one of the greatest tools in a sourcer or recruiter's toolkit.
I think I may have found it. I think it called like maybe the KPI would be like almost like the flow of intelligence. Like, what are you doing with the flow of intelligence, new intelligence that you are getting? Because now that it's coming at a faster rate, how are you able to apply that more accurately?
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And when we think about market mapping, talent intelligence, really understanding the skills by geo, that's where LLMs are fantastic at being deployed. They are great at words. They are great at research.
That's
And I
true.
think the faster we can have those hit lists of companies we're going to outreach, that's where traditionally, when building pipeline from 0 to 1 for a new search, takes the most amount of time. It's okay, what are the 10 to 20 companies I'm going to start with? How am I going to map the roles internally? How many folks can I forecast to be in those positions? So I know from my outbound and outreach, does that number of messages sent make sense with the size of the company that I'm targeting? If I'm only sending 10 distinct messages to a company that has 5,000 employees, I'm probably off. And if those profiles aren't returning against a query on one channel, say LinkedIn or an X-ray or one of the many tools, I may need to B-test that search so I can get what might be a more accurate representation of that profile within the company.
That's
So
true.
I'm excited about the use case of LLMs for research. And we're even seeing those types of jobs evolve. I think of sourcers of our generation, people like Erin Matthew. She is truly a leader in our space, but she's of our generation, and her role has become very strategic. And that's where I
Right.
think sourcing and rec ops are in this rising moment where no longer are sourcers just junior recruiters and no longer are rec ops folks evolved ATS administrators. We're really having a moment that I'm seeing in real time from people's job titles who are candidly just folks that I know and respect and like within the industry. What are you seeing around the intersection of sourcing and rec ops and careers?
Gotcha. I would say it's basically, I can speak definitely to sourcing is becoming more of a, what are you doing with talent intelligence? And you're basically becoming more so a strategic talent advisor is what I would call it. Talent insights. Like you're bringing those insights, usually like, hey, you meet with your recruiter or you meet with the crew and hiring leader, you get the requirements for the role, you go source, you bring in the candidates. That was like maybe, how would I say, it's 2026 now, maybe 5 years ago. Okay, that was what it was. Like, do this, bring me the candidates. Now it has, especially starting, I say around 2023, it has started to evolve into more the sourcer, especially. It's like they're becoming more of a, I'm trying to figure out the right terminology for it. I would say advisor as well. Hey, you have to have the courage to speak to the hiring leader and your recruiters. Hey, this is the information, this is the data I bring. I would say data is easy to share, but insight is harder to apply. My words is how I would put that. The real value of sourcing is not that insight, it's not that it exists. It's like, how are you able to apply that to the organization? Because like I can give you data all day. Hey, here where we need to find these people, here where these people are at. But if we're not actually applying the data in a meaningful way that it changes the search, then it's just data for data's sake.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we can struggle to see the forest for the trees when it comes to data in recruiting and sourcing. I think any good recruiter can break down a funnel and give you an estimate of what those pass through rates, what those reply interested rates, what the interview to offer ratio will likely be. So, this
Right.
over obsession with data around the candidate journey can almost miss what's most important that drives those benchmarks and its candidate
Right.
experience.
It's like you have to look at it like, hey, I brought you the data, but after the data, does the search evolve? Do expectations shift? How has the search strategy evolved as well? Does the hiring conversation become more focused and realistic? Like I brought you, okay, the salary expectations of these people, what they're looking for in this area. Okay, now are we going to, hey, so we can't find these people in this locale. Do we move it to more of a hybrid or do we go to remote? That way we can find the people who would maybe accept this target salary range. Is what are you using? When I bring you this data, how are we realigning the search?
Yeah, that's such a good point because when I think about what this over index on data does is it appeals to our stakeholders. When we hire technical roles, our stakeholders are technical minded individuals. They believe in the story of math, science, physics, quantifiable equations. And the human experience is very hard to put into numbers. So
Sure.
any recruiter should know their numbers. This is not a like proxy to get out of talking about data. It is just the reality that we've over indexed a little bit on the importance of having a specific number. When I think about like deviance from the mean, there's probably an acceptable deviance where recruiters are efficient. And as we get more efficient at the top of funnel with precision on that outreach, so instead of 20 messages to get a hire, maybe it's 10 responses to get a hire, what we're actually doing is paying it forward in the long term. So when I think about long tail sourcing, if we have more precision at the top of funnel and we serve up 5 great, highly qualified candidates when we've submitted to the hiring manager and they're offering a hire at a 5-to-1 ratio, those silver medalist candidates we talked about are inherently going to compound and be better fits for Rec 2, Rec 3, Rec 4 over time. The sourcing work on Search 1 with AI, with better market mapping, is actually paying it forward for hires that may be second half of the year or going into the next year's headcount. It's very hard to quantify that at a macro level view when we're so focused on what were the response rates, what were the pass-through rates, and getting way too granular for one specific search, because that search also just happens at one moment in time in terms of the market and the product growth and financial story of the company. All of that changes when we hire somebody in Q1 versus, say, Q3.
That's true.
Even in legacy tech companies that are changing as well.
That's true. That's a very accurate statement.
What advice do you have for sourcers out there to think in new ways about data? What about general advice for recruiters out there?
Oh, gotcha. General advice for recruiters as a sourcer, working with different profiles, different people. I think a lot of times they go so quickly through the black and the white. They don't see this or that immediately on their resume. It's or LinkedIn profile is immediately dismissed. But it may not be on their LinkedIn profile or the resume. It may be from their GitHub. It may be in an article that they wrote on Medium. Because I search all those things too. I try to also put those in the notes if I do find it on there somewhere else on the interwebs so that they read that. But sometimes not to so easily dismiss maybe a candidate just because they're missing one keyword. Also with, I think, the job transitions as well. I think there's a story there most of the time. If somebody's been someplace, maybe, had maybe 5 jobs and they stay there each for 2 years, there may be an actual reason for why that person left, or it may not be from any fault of their own. Like I said, I read them like character art. It's okay, this person, they were here for such a this, but what did they achieve while they were at these places?
Yeah, I love that. That's why we have to challenge ourselves outside of some of these historical markers of those search terms that return against a query. Just because somebody worked at a blue chip name doesn't necessarily deliver insight around the impact they've had. And this is the research piece of AI and LLMs that I'm really excited about, that triangulate against the types of searches that I make in early stage startups, is because I'm usually hiring folks in seed to Series B, sometimes Series C companies. And oftentimes the profiles that I'm targeting are folks that maybe were the founding individual in that business function at that blue chip company. So if it's a name brand, cool startup that's scaling, they're later stage, sometimes when you uncover that gem of a profile, you're like, wait, I think I found the first product manager that was the PM at this company. Like, I don't think there was anybody else that did it, and it was them. And then you get to talk to that person and you're like, yes, I was right. This is them. That's the exciting piece. That's the stuff that makes me keep going. I just love sleuthing and finding out who are these folks that have made an exponential impact in the companies that we know and love.
I definitely think, as you mentioned, it's not about how many profiles you find, especially with insight. It's about how fast your insight influence hiring decisions, marketing position, and workforce planning in the future.
All right. So Martel, what advice do you have for sourcers out there who may want to grow a career like yours?
Oh, cool. I would say definitely learn Boolean, get into the weeds of that. Whatever you need to do to learn it. I don't care if you have to use ChatGPT, give you a sample string and go from there. But actually learn what or there's a lot of articles out there about it. There's things you can look up on the internet, LinkedIn people that you can follow as well to learn more about Boolean search strings. See, don't just use keywords. I like to say use key phrases. Think about how this person is talking about their role. So if I say I software engineer or something putting quotations, developed, etc. Think about how they're thinking. Look at a profile, read through it. Look how this person is actually speaking about what they do. Look at what they call themselves as well. Because sometimes you have organizations They'll have a title or a position for a role that you may not have seen before, but they're doing the exact same thing that the person that you want to come to your company is doing. You just call it something different. You find out a lot in, I think, consulting agencies. You kind of have to level scale. Just read through those profiles, see what that person is doing, look what they call themselves. That's some of the advice I would give. Number one, you're looking to become a great sorter. Maybe find yourself a mentor as well. Somebody can teach you different ways to go through things. Get involved in whether they're remote or in person, talent organizations or meetups. So you can see, hey, how did this person get to where they were at? Because my very first job was a front desk person at a hotel, but I always wanted to get into recruiting and sourcing. But that did help me learn how to deal with different types of people. To always look for opportunities to apply yourself and how you can grow from there.
It's so true. I got to ask you another one. Do you have any like hidden secret Boolean tricks for certain operators or search terms that have a great return on a query?
Oh, yeah. I have, let's see, I use the before and after operators a lot. I use that in the context of, say, I'm looking for somebody who has, just say, for example, AWS certification, and they need to have this between a certain range or a certain date, or it has to be current. I'll use the before and after operators to find people within that date, or it could be something like, say, healthcare. They have to have a lot of certifications, things as well. You can use the before and after operator for that. Schooling, degrees. I use one for GPAs. I have a lot. I have a lot of Booleans. I have 100 plus that I've created myself to look for different things. I have the diversity search strings as well. You can use emojis to help find people as well. Some people use and then they use like a person for a software engineer, or say Python. Some people use a snake in their profile. They can also help you open up new profiles there too.
Totally. And are you seeing more folks reply to emails or in mails or phone calls these days?
Let's see. Wow, that's a good one. Because for me, I would say this. I would think they would hit the emails more often. But I'm a sourcer and been a recruiter. I think most sourcers and recruiters, we kind of live within LinkedIn. So we think people are maybe on their LinkedIn's every day. But that's generally not the case at all. But I would say, from what I've seen recently, I would say email. I got pretty good responses from emails as well. More so email, reaching out to them there. Because most people check their emails. They may not check their LinkedIn. You get those profiles. You get those people that reach back out to you. It's 6 months later. Hey, I'm just checking to see if this is still available. It's like, oh, wow, okay. You sent it like March 2024.
Yeah. And what about number of emails in a sequence?
I usually do three. I usually do three emails in a sequence. Say they don't answer the first one. Then I set the second one for 3 days later. Then I set the last one maybe 5 days later. Usually they respond to the first one. I think I'm pretty creative at coming up with good subject lines, and as well that come from writing and screenwriting. It's like coming up with stuff that people like. It's going to appeal to them. Say, for example, I looked at one guy when I was sourcing for a role, and I saw that he had been reached out to 7 times by different people throughout the organization. But I skimmed his profile a little bit. I saw that he really liked cars and working on cars. So I worked that into my subject line. Why don't you check under the hood of this position? And then he answered back. He said, okay, now you got my attention.
Yep. I love that. And it's a risk. It's a risk. Sometimes you think candidates want that level of personalization. And then sometimes you see that candidates don't want that level of personalization. I think that's the joy and the beauty of it, is like the craft, figuring out,
Sure.
Hey, do I think this person is going to respond to that level of personalization, of information that I have? And I'm always surprised. I think people do. People like to be seen. They like to be appreciated, especially if it's a high volume role, or especially if it's a role where they're receiving a high volume of messages from recruiters. Like software engineers, like they're going to get hit up by people all the time, but it's pattern disruption. And if you can do that in the subject line, if you can do that in the first line of the email, to me, it's always worth the risk. How long are your emails typically?
I try to keep them, I know for my emails, I like to keep them under 900 or less. So like, I would say I keep the emails around the same 900 characters or less, because most people are reading the stuff on their phone nowadays. It's got to come through where it grabs their attention there. Then I don't think like sending a novel is going to work.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there too. I've sent emails from myself, from multiple versions of my own domain, from a founder, from the hiring manager doing those like on behalf of campaigns. What about you? Have you sent on behalf of? Are you seeing that you're getting good responses from your own domain?
I haven't done too many on behalf of.
Right on. You're killing it, man. This is great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people stay in touch with you?
They can reach me on LinkedIn. I would say that's the best place to reach me.
Martel, thanks so much for everything you do for the industry, for the LinkedIn community. And we'll have to have you on the show again to talk more about your acting and creative endeavors.
Oh, I appreciate that. Sounds good.
Yeah, don't forget about us when you're famous.
I won't. I always remember, hey, you never know how you can use sourcing to find actors.
All right. Thanks, Martel. Have a great day.
All right, you too. You as well.